So today I wanted to go over Marcus Aurelius and kind of go over um, his book on meditations and the philosophy. So I think Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor, and he wrote in a journal during probably the later years of his life, is what it seems to be, when his campaign up north in Germanic tribes defending Rome. And so you can see how when you read Meditations, how you can take some of those concepts of him being in that scenario, seeing people die all around him, seeing people, die, body parts he talks about on the floor. Like, it was a brutal battle up north. It's cold, you're fighting, right? But he was up there and he was with his troops, helping them organize them to fight and defend off the Germanic tribes. And during that time, in his tent, when in the battlefield, he wrote Meditations. Meditations was a private journal that he wrote in, and it survived all these years. Luckily, he did not want it to survive all these years, but luckily he made it survive all these years. Well, somebody did. Made it survive all these years for us to read now, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things that you'll read, just in general, not even philosophy or anything. I think it's just beautiful writing, and it's so easy to read too because he writes it as if like it was anybody nowadays. Like, it's not any complexity to it. Anybody can read it, and so I have some notes I want to look at. So yeah, and so he was basically writing to himself when he was up north, basically to keep himself in check and to keep himself within his Stoic values and write to himself. That's all he was doing. He was writing to himself. He wasn't writing to anybody else, just himself, which I think is a very cool niche thing that we can see now, nowadays, and how popular it is. But it helps put people in perspective of how Stoicism is played out. There's a book of How to Think Like a Roman Emperor by Robert Donaldson. It's a beautiful book. If you really love Marcus and really love Stoicism, you have to read it. But it's nice because in that book, he goes over Marcus doing something as a Roman emperor, and then how he uses Stoic value and virtue to conquer that goal, whether it be someone betraying him or the plague. And that's the thing, is Marcus had so much going on in his time as emperor. It's pretty wild. He had a plague which was killing millions of people in his city, and he couldn't do anything about it. All of his children died. His wife died at some point. Like, he was kind of just left alone towards the end of his life when writing Meditations. Like, he didn't really have a lot. He had people around him, politicians, but how much can you trust that? And I think he obviously understood that, but he really had himself, and he was going through some very hard times. But he used his Stoic value and wisdom to push him through it. Yeah, and another big thing is, like I was saying, he wrote this just for himself. It wasn't meant to be written for other people to learn about philosophy. This was just for him, so you can really understand someone with the pure essence of Stoicism and how to use it, just like Marcus. And I think it's beautiful because Marcus loved philosophy. He loved Stoicism. He said that if he wasn't an emperor, he would just be a philosopher on an island somewhere just studying. All he did during being an emperor was just study philosophy. And he was dragged to events and stuff, but he didn't want to do that. He just wanted to read philosophy. So this is a very devoted person that loves philosophy, but really preached Stoicism to himself. And that's how, when you read Meditations, you can use that for yourself, which I think is very important. Some main ideas is one of the big main emphasis of Stoicism is focus on what you control. If it's not within your control, you shouldn't worry about it. I don't care what it is. If it's not in your control, you should not worry about it. If it rains on a day you're supposed to go out, whatever. You get a flat tire, you get a flat tire. There's not much you can do about it besides fix it, repair it, and move on, And I think these values are so important nowadays. People are just so fixated on things that they can't control by a huge margin, right? Whether it be something you see on the news or something like that, but it's just not in your control. It's not. And a big thing is, it's not about not showing emotion or anything like that. It's just, if it's not within your control, you can't do anything about it. You wish you could maybe, but you can't. So don't even stress about it. Don't cry about it. Don't get mad about it. Those are very important Stoic teachings that they do. Epictetus talks about that a lot more. Marcus talks about it, no doubt, because Marcus read Epictetus' writing to help inform him on it. But if it's not within your control, you shouldn't worry about it. Your reaction also is a big thing to problems that happen. So whatever happens in your reaction is huge. right? So somebody cuts you off, right? Is it really worth being mad and so angry about holding down the horn or something like that? Like Stoicism teaches you kind of just to mellow yourself out a little bit and just not like little matey dainty things just don't matter. They really don't matter. And I think it's huge nowadays. Everybody's like that, and it's redonkulous to say the least. Um, and another thing is don't let people make you bitter. Don't let people frustrate you or make you mad. Like external things, things not within you and your virtue and your soul, you should not let it control your actions or emotions. That's another thing that Marcus plays on very heavily. He's an emperor. He has all these people, politicians coming to him wanting stuff. You know, they only go to him because they want stuff. They want this, they want that, they want this. Don't let people control you or manipulate you or play with your emotions. Stay true to yourself is what Marcus is. You know, he's a Roman emperor. He has all these people just wanting stuff from him, this and that. Stay true to yourself. That is what's most important. Everyone acts from their own viewpoint, which is a big one. Everybody kind of just plays on their own emotions and their own rules and stuff like that. And like if someone, so Marcus, when he was an emperor, he had a general that was in South America, or sorry, North Africa. He was in North Africa. Marcus was up here during, you know, his fighting the Germanic tribes, and the general basically kind of went against him and said that Marcus was dead, even though Marcus wasn't dead. And then a civil war was about to break out, and he, you know, he's in control of a bunch of legions, and he's heading, you know, east, going around to Rome with his legions to fight and like basically fight a civil war and claim the throne for himself. And Marcus is like, oh god, now I gotta deal with this. Marcus goes down there. As Marcus is going down there to confront him, and the conflict was about to happen, the general, ends up getting his head cut off because his troops found out he was lying. And Marcus doesn't put pain on him. You know, Marcus was just like, you know what, if this individual really wanted to be emperor and he came to me personally and was like, and told me why he wanted to be emperor, I maybe would have gave it to him. You know, like if there was a better option, I would have gave that option as an emperor to him. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about Marcus is how he thought like that. He wasn't just like, oh no, I'm emperor, I'm power, nobody else. Like he wasn't like that, and I think it's just one of the very nice things that Marcus did. You know, the general ended up dying, but at the end of the day, he was more than willing to give it to him if he believed that he would have been a better fit. And Marcus doesn't say, don't blame him, don't put harm on him. Everybody has different viewpoints. He may be just uneducated, unthinking. Same thing with anybody that maybe went against Marcus. It's like, don't throw, you know, just forgive him. Don't throw pity and shame and harass. Just don't do that. Yeah, another one is keep your mind clean. Obviously, no envy, anger, or fear. Now, like, the thing with Stoicism is that you have a lot of people like that like preach like broicism, where broicism is like no emotion, no fear, do it, blah blah blah. Emotion and fear is completely fine. Seneca talks about it in his letters. Emotion is fine. There's no problem with crying, feeling sad. It's a matter of just harnessing your emotions and just facing what the problems are coming to you and not letting it swallow you in a sense. People have this very niche idea of stoicism, and it's like, oh, you're so stoic because you're not crying and you have no emotions. It's not about not having emotions. It's just handling the emotions that happen to you. Marcus faced everything, terrible things. He lost, I think he had like 11 children, all died. Like, this is a man who could have gave up easy but chose not to, right? And he wasn't easy to strike out in fear or angry or be irrational because of those emotions. He was rational. He knew what he was doing. He learned from his father and from Hadrian, and he had great teachers that taught him the essence. And philosophy helped him stay true to his virtue, which is a huge part of Stoicism, that everybody needs to stay true to their own virtues. What else do we have here? Return to reason whenever your emotions flare up. Obviously, kind of what we just talked about. Marcus, just get mad, you come back to reality, right? It's a big thing, especially nowadays when you're on your phone. You get mad. They always say, put your phone away when you're mad. Don't drive when you're mad, right? Because then you do stupid things. You don't think right. And I think it's very important nowadays, particularly to stay focused don't let your emotions take the best of you, which I feel like happens so much nowadays. But don't let emotions take the best of you when you're sad or angry. Just be to yourself, calm yourself, and just relax. Marcus was very interesting in do your role well no matter what. And it's kind of I would say maybe a little bit of a controversial take that the Stoics have that some people will use to criticize it. Because Marcus would have been the type of dude where he's like, whatever job you're doing in life, be the absolute best at it. Be the best. So if you're a slave, Marcus would literally tell you, be the best slave you can be. You know, and I'll let that leave up to interpretation for what you want to believe it to be, right? Any job, anything you do, farmer, politician, CEO, be the best at what you can do. And it makes sense to me what he's saying. Depends how you use it. I'll let that leave up to your interpretation. Some people think it's, it can be bad things, like what if you're a slave, But I think a little bit broader than that, I think modern Stoics do too, where it's like no matter what you do, if obviously slavery is not as relevant as it was back then, so it's not the same thing. But I think it's a matter of principle of no matter what you do, if you have this job and then switch to that job, it doesn't matter. Be the best at it. Be the best that you can be. Put all your effort into that. Another big one was don't complain. So in meditations, he strongly, heavily notes how you should not complain. Don't complain to yourself. Don't complain to others. It just wears you down. It drags you down. It's not useful. It's not beneficial. Just thinking and complaining to yourself, it's not the best for yourself and your mortal sanity. Stay true to yourself. Don't complain, even to yourself, because then you're going to come off as a complainer. People aren't going to like that. You're going to complain a lot. And like I said, people don't like complainers. They generally don't when people are complaining. So try not to complain. Just if you're going through the mud, go through that shit. You got it. Obviously, the big one, and I think honestly most philosophies is like the core, right? You have philosophy, and then within the circle of philosophy, you just have virtue. Virtue is heavy within philosophy, but it's obviously really heavy in Stoicism. Virtue is just staying true to yourself, doing the right things. Socrates kind of explained it that like we all have something in our mind that tells us what's right and what's wrong when we're doing it, and we should always listen to that mind. Like if you're doing something wrong that you shouldn't, maybe smoking when you said you weren't, we all have that thing in our mind telling us stuff like that. So it's really wise to stick to your virtue, listen to yourself. I think it all kind of correlates with each other. A huge thing with Stoicism also is death. Death is a huge part. Marcus saw people dying from the plague. He saw his soldiers being killed up north. He saw his children and his wife die, his tutors, his parents, adopted parents. He's seen them all die. And they all really emphasize the fact that death shouldn't be scary. We shouldn't fear death. Now, it doesn't mean that you should chase death. That just means that you shouldn't really fear it. Like right now, we all have the inclination that we all know we're going to die someday, but we shouldn't fear it. Death is a part of nature. It's part of life. All we're doing is when we die is we're giving ourselves back to nature. Nature can be kind of a form term for God, I'm pretty sure in that essence, but at the end of the day, we are just giving ourselves back to nature when we do die. You shouldn't fear it. It's only going to hold you back if you do. And I think one thing that's nice about it is that it tells you to focus on what matters. Like focus on what you can control, which comes in with that essence where do well in your role, be the best at it. It's the same thing. Just focus on your goals. Don't worry about death. And it should motivate you to realize that even though I am going to die and this is the one life I'm going to get, I'm going to be the best at what I can do, right? But just don't fear it. Don't fear it. Obviously, live every day as your last, like it's your last, is a huge part. The reason that people really read Marcus is that it's simple and it gives really good practical advice. And that comes back in with the last video that I made about ethics. Stoicism is really deep and rooted in ethics. I misinterpreted that. Everything is deep rooted in all philosophy with ethics. But when it comes to schools like the Stoics, ethics is just a part of Stoicism. You still have I can't think of it, but there's other parts of Stoicism. But the ethics is really what's modern and what people really care about. They only really care about the ethics and the advice to give through it. And that's one thing about Marcus is that it's really good. One quote that I always tell to myself about Marcus is that, like, quit. I forgot how it's quoted exactly, but it's basically like saying, don't, quit talking about what a good man is and just be one. I kind of tell myself that a lot because at the end of the day, it's true. Like, quit saying you're going to do something and then not do it. You're supposed to do it, so do it, right? I think huge aspects of meditations that can help people are big things that are huge nowadays. Anxiety, anger, and overthinking. I know that the Stoics really preach how anger is evil. And I read some other, like Plato and stuff said that, about how anger is just really bad. And we should really avoid anger at all costs because anger is just terrible. But if you have anger, anxiety, or overthinking, or just want to learn and improve yourself, that is what's great about meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It really helps in those aspects. And that's what's so prevalent about Stoicism today, is that people, more than ever, I feel like, have anxiety, anger, and overthinking. Especially overthinking and anxiety are huge nowadays. And that's why I just believe it's beneficial for everybody to read and just learn about it. It's, the writing's out there, and these are the best minds in the world when it comes to philosophy. They preach the best, they teach the best. It's the best minds in the world, and we get their knowledge. I mean, for free, you have to buy the book, but you get to learn it, and I think there is no price limit on when it comes to reading and improving yourself. So, obviously, Marcus also plays into a big role of ego. He banishes ego, hold your ego, hold it, right? And how you can be a better person even without having all this ego. So it's very interesting, and I think Stoicism by Marcus Aurelius is highly beneficial. I think everybody should read it, and I think it will improve everybody's lives if you read it. This is the copy I have. It's really good. I heard it's one of the better. I think it's like the best copy, maybe. There's different copies with different translations, but at the end of the day, And this is a good quote, and it says, "And yours too, if you wanted, what's stopping you?" It's just good. It's good advice, good practical advice. Short read, you can read it super fast. It's only like 200 pages, if even. So, I highly recommend this book. Highly recommend it. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It'll get you in the front door of Stoic philosophy, and it'll help. And read other books about it, and it'll help. So, but read philosophy. It's great, especially Stoicism. It's just what I like to read. I'm reading other stuff, not just Stoicism, but I started with Stoicism, and I'll start here.